the way you looked a couple hours ago, I thought, you know, this is going to be the night when he says, now the hell with it.
Hi everybody, meteorologist Joe Cioffi here on this Thursday night, March the 8th, 2018, coming up on a little less than 20 minutes before the hour of 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and I thought maybe we'd do a little bit of a post-mortem on yesterday's snowstorm that impacted such a large area of the Northeast with some pretty impressive snowfalls when it was all said and done. There were also a few little oddities that happened in a couple of places. I think it reflects the time of year, daytime snowing in the daytime, sun angle issues, the warmer urban areas versus the colder rural areas. And you can actually get at least a sense, by the way, of just how difficult, when we draw a snow forecast map, how difficult it is to account for all the differences there are, the microclimates, the urban areas versus the rural areas, the suburban urban areas, the suburban areas close to say New York City or for Philadelphia. And then of course you have the large area in the purple, which was basically everywhere that got at least a foot. In the darker purples you see here, and you're starting to get into the brighter color shades of purple. This is where you start getting into the 24 plus range. There you see these pockets here of 24 plus inches in northern New Jersey and up in the Hudson Valley. But there are gaps, and there was also a gap of an area of 1 foot plus snows that extended through much of western Connecticut, and then a break, and then another run of 1 foot plus snows that ran up through eastern Massachusetts. Now, as you got closer to the coastline, much less. But just to show you the sort of the oddities, if you look on Long Island and central Long Island, that area of purple, I actually live on the northern side of that area of purple. I had 7 inches at my house, and there were some 8 to 10 inch amounts in that zone. Either side of that, you would expect it to be lower to the east, but it was actually lower to the west, and part of that had to do with the fact that as you get further west, closer to New York City, it starts to get a bit more urbanized. And then in New York City itself, most of the snow amounts that were measured there were underneath 4 inches. A few areas a bit higher on the fringe, but most of New York City got less than 4 inches, and then it jumps back up. Once you go just east of New York City, you start to get into the 6, 8, 9, 10 inch amounts, and then of course not that far north and west, where we had a number of areas with snowfalls up in the 20 plus inch range. And notice just inland of the New Jersey coast, basically west of the Garden State Parkway, westward into southwestern New Jersey, there were some 6 to 8 inch snowfall amounts there. Philadelphia also had, by the way, the same thing that New York City had to deal with, was the fact that the snow that fell during the daytime didn't stick very much, but Philadelphia did manage to tap a little bit more of the explosive development when they had the thunderstorms, the thunder snows running around, and the snowfall amounts in Philadelphia itself also around 5 inches or a bit less, but the surrounding areas did quite well. And by the way, one of the things that the models were wrong on, the western flank of this, the low center pulling out to the east when it was off the southern New Jersey coast, kept most of the coastal areas north and east of that zone colder. But it also cut back on the western fringe of this. So if you were just east of Lancaster, from just east of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, westward, where there were forecasts for some 6 to 8 inch amounts, got next to nothing. And this is really the risk that you have when you deal with these snow systems. And I've said many times, somebody's going to bust. You're going to bust a snow forecast one way or the other. No one is going to be able to come up with a map like this or close to this prior to an event. So you see these broad scale maps, and you wind up with some people thinking that, hey, supposed to get a forecast for a foot, only got 6 inches, and then on the other hand, you had people that were forecast to get 6 to 12 inches and wound up with 18 to 24. But this is a good example of just how difficult it is to draw a snow forecast map, because you cannot get every microclimate, every spot, the urban effect in March, the warmer temperatures in and around the big cities played into this, and it's a lot to account for.
I don't want to.
Is that Mr. Rayo is here?
I didn't want to confuse you.
But
I was told they're running a basketball game, so Mr. Gilliam is not going to be available for about 15 or 20 minutes.
Oh, you want to jump in?
So I can. I'm not doing anything. So if you want me to,
I just want to see the light.
Oh, okay. Boy, I do a live video, and I got all this company now. Just to let you know, I'm live streaming on YouTube. Okay. So just going over what we had from yesterday, Joe.
Picture. High tech.
It is. You should be able to do that, Mr. DeMille. Now get out. Now, I just reviewed, Joe, basically what happened yesterday with the snow, with how it played out, how New York City and Philadelphia itself, the urban areas getting much less. The fact that the low moved straight east off the New Jersey coast, you wound up with some forecast higher amounts for coastal areas. We had said how tenuous that was all along. I'm not hiding, Joe. I'm just going to bring up the next graphic. So we're going to jump over to the next weather system, because we know that, is that the right? No, that's the wrong one, Joseph. Hang on.
if I had $1 for every single person who has asked me in the last 12 hours what's going to happen on Monday, I wouldn't have to work here anymore.
Well, that's true.
I mean, this is crazy. I mean, you talk about people who are shell shocked right now, and think about this, Joe. In the last 6 days, there have been parts of the Hudson Valley that have picked up in excess of 40 inches of snow. There were places up actually in Ulster County, for example, Phoenicia, that picked up something like 20, 21 inches. And they picked up a similar amount yesterday. And crazy. I mean, Sloatsburg, 26 inches in Rockland County, for goodness sake. I don't even think Sloatsburg is a overly elevated area, but these bands of snow that set up, which are really somewhat unpredictable. Just, you know, there are a few of them yesterday that that plus the convection, the thunder snows that occurred. That's really, but what really blows my mind is how many people yesterday morning when they woke up said, "This is a bust. They did it to us. They were talking about it. The plane is up big time. Look out the window, and it looks more like rain than snow and everything." And nobody really, I don't think really paid attention. I mean, I know you.
It was pretty clear that this was going to be basically from midday on yesterday. I don't quite get, you know, a lot of times when that happens, you and I probably have both experienced it professionally, where even when we're trying to translate the information to those we work with, it's the natural tendency for most of us, and we all do it. maybe you hear a quarter of what was actually said. So we'll tell them, you know, snow is supposed to start at, we think the snow will start at a certain time and end at a certain time. So we were saying that the bulk of the snow was going to be from noontime on.
Right.
So, but you still wind up, you walk into work at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Where's the snow? Wasn't supposed to be there.
People arbitrarily hear a storm is coming. They just arbitrarily believe that as soon as the storm arrives, it's going to come in its full strength and fury, as opposed to what happened yesterday, where it was a slow, gradual progression of revving up, and then the slow, gradual part went out the window by 1 o'clock, because we could see that this was going to be a pretty wild 5 or 6 hour interval during the afternoon into the early evening, with the thunderstorms and the banding and the moderate to heavy snowfall. And that's where everybody really, but we were seeing snow rates coming down of like 2 and 3 inches per hour for some, and it's just absolutely incredible.
We should point out, thanks to those of you who are just saying that there's a problem here with the stream. I think a lot has to do with the fact that there are a lot of power outages out around in this area, and a lot of folks have no internet service at all. There's a huge disruption, and I think it may be impacting what we're doing on the stream, because there's a signal issue. So they're telling us that the audio actually got worse and it's choppy. Is it still choppy? All right, hold on. Is it still, if somebody could give us a check here? This is all beyond our control.
Level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
7, 8. This might be a problem tonight then. We may have technical difficulties. If you're telling me that I should start all over, maybe I should. Maybe I'll start all over. Audio just went down. It's sort of choppy. Okay, let me see if I could start this again. Let's see. Elevation played a role. Okay, you know what? We're gonna start the live stream again. We'll see if I can get something a bit better. Okay, so just bear with me. I'll be right back. Okay, the stream health is green. That's good. All right, we're back, and hi everybody. It's Joe Cioffi here with Joe Rayo. It's now 8:52 Eastern Time. We're having some technical difficulties tonight because of the fact that there's a lot of the area here. There are a huge number of power outages. There are problems probably with the internet lines somewhere along the way. Right now I'm getting a healthy sign here, so they're telling me the video is fine and good. Okay, so we'll hopefully it'll hold on. All right, so you know what, just really fast, I'm just going to really fast review for those that may have just joined us separately from the last stream. The snowfall from yesterday, which was, you know, from the standpoint of snowstorms, this was really this was a pretty good one. A large geographic area from Philadelphia to near Philadelphia to just west of New York City, on up to about Hartford to just west of Boston, all getting hammered with 1 foot plus snows.
And for me, I live in Putnam County, Putnam Valley in Putnam County, New York, and I've been there for 16 years now, almost 16 years, and the storm of yesterday ranked among the top 3. I've seen a lot of big snowfalls, moderate snowfalls, and big snowfalls where I live, but this was the third biggest storm out of the 16 years I've been up there. Rivaled only by the President's Day storm of 2003, where we had close to 20 inches on my property, and then that was followed by the Christmas Day, not the day after Christmas storm, but the Christmas Day storm of 2002, we had about 17 or 18 inches. Officially, yesterday, we measured out at 16.3 inches, and let me just also say, it was about the heaviest, wettest, slushiest snow that I have ever seen in all of my years of looking at snowfalls, going back to the days when I lived in the Bronx, and that was probably the reason why so many power lines and trees came tumbling down last night and this morning in and around my area, because that really did a number on a lot of power lines because of the heavy slushy consistency.
Right. Now, the storm center moving east off the New Jersey coast was key to coastal areas getting a bit more. This was the big struggle we had with the forecast going into it,
right,
was how cold would it be, and it was a colder atmosphere with the low going straight east rather than tracing a track up along the coast. That's why that purple area that's over central Long Island, that's where I am. I had about 7 inches, a little bit over 7 inches, and that band in purple is basically a 6 to 8 band. Otherwise, there would have been very little on Long Island if it had traced up the coast. And also, areas just west of the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey did rather well with some 6 to 8 inch amounts there. So the New York City did not get a lot. Most of the New York City numbers were under 5 inches. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that whatever fell during the daytime today, the urban effect, the warm heat island effect, temperatures just above freezing, and the sun angle between 10 o'clock and about 3-4 o'clock kept accumulations down in there, and to some extent also to Philadelphia. But let's jump fast to Monday, because this is the setup for Monday. I have the GFS model up, which is the most aggressive of all the models that came out today. And you have all the pieces here for something, for another coastal storm possibility. You have the low that's sitting out east of Newfoundland, what we call the 50-50 low. Right. We have the blocking high to the north of that, pushing down into eastern Canada. There's a strong southern stream system that's coming along, a northern stream energy that's trying to drop in, and we have a ridge up in the west. The big question is, how are these pieces going to interact with each other, and do they come together? And the GFS is late this afternoon was fairly aggressive with this, but the couple of other models are saying, let's back off a bit on this.
It's more of a flatter, especially the European. I was very surprised the European, of all the models that we looked at this afternoon, seemed to be the one that was pushing the storm further south than any of the other models.
And you're right on that, Joe, with respect to the European. I'm going to bring up the upper air on the European, which shows a distinct difference in fact, I'll just leave this geography on. It shows a distinct difference with regards to the upper flow, and I'll bring it up to the time in question. So this is what it's supposed to be on Sunday, and this is Monday morning. This is the European's upper air. You can see that the southern part, it is flatter, and the northern stream energy is coming in, just kind of squashing it and flattening out. The GFS has a different look here. It has a much more developed southern stream feature, very well developed, in fact. And the big question is the GFS right on this? Is it going to be as well developed as the model's showing? I'm kind of leaning to the idea of the flatter look.
Yeah, well, the European model looks like it almost has like a positively tilted type of trough. I mean, you want to see the trough, if you think about it in terms of a pendulum, you want to see the pendulum lifting and moving over to the right, or swinging over to the right, and it hasn't even begun to do that on the upper air for the European. In fact, by the time it does do that, it kind of kicks it out and away from the mid-Atlantic area,
Right.
and pretty much saves our area from any adverse effects.
Right. At this point, the GFS has this is Tuesday morning. At this point,
Right.
it's all done, but I want to match it up for the same time frame. This is what the upper air winds up looking like Tuesday morning when the system is done on the GFS, but on the European, look at that. That's much. You can get, yeah, it's completely flat. You can't find you can barely find the southern stream feature at all.
A little ripple.
The only thing the European does differently, though, is as it rotates an arm around this so that it actually tries to do something along about Wednesday or Thursday.
Right.
That's a whole different view from the GFS for Thursday, because it puts all its eggs in the first basket, and it really, the energy with the second thing is much further east, and this would probably just be some kind of weak front that comes through, reinforcing surge of dry air.
You see a discontinuity like that between two normally reliable models. Then you say to yourself, well, which one is going to be the so-called outlier? Which one is going to be the one that's going to be completely and totally wrong, and which is the one that's going to have at least some semblance of validity? And at this point in time, still, 4 days out, you really can't say.
Right. Here's the GFS's surface on this run. It's been coming further left with every run, and this run late this afternoon had another low sitting just east of just east of Delaware Bay, snow up into southern New England and just north of New York City, and then eventually heading. This would be more of a coastal event rather than an inland event. If the GFS is right, and I don't, at this point, I don't know if it's got the correct view of all of this, but this is part of the game that we're playing here, right?
And the NAM, of course, only goes out to 84 hours, but
You all right?
I hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get a drink of water. The 12Z, the morning run of the NAM, takes us out to what, Monday morning?
Right. And it looked more like the European to me than it did the GFS.
And it looks like if there is going to be any kind of an effect, according to the NAM, in terms of snow, it might actually be more for North Carolina and Virginia than anything else.
I'm going to pull up the SREF model off screen, and it should go out far enough. The last period here takes us to actually to Monday morning. We should have the new, if it gives any hint, and actually it gives almost an inch of snow to New York City, and a little over almost an inch and a half at Philadelphia. Just trying to get a gauge. We could pull up forecast snow amounts from this model. We could at least get a sense. So most of these areas that I'm looking at in southern New Jersey, under an inch. Dover gets over an inch. Maybe it might be better if we pulled up the preset. So it gives half an inch of liquid to Dover. In Long Branch, it gives a little over a quarter of an inch. To New York City, a little under 2/10 of an inch. And for Islip, it gives a little under 2/10 of an inch. So it at least from the standpoint of the SREF model, it looks more of it looks like the flatter model solutions that we have, and not the robust GFS solution.
It's again, the GFS has been indeed the most robust with this for the last two days or so, and the other models have been kind of holding back. Still a lot of time though to see whether or not the GFS ends up pulling the reins back on its own, or whether or not any of the other models join in and say, hey, that looks like a more credible solution. So but it's just the fact that everybody is so shell-shocked with what has happened over the last 6 days, especially those who have had their power out for a number of days, like yours truly. The last thing you want to see is the power to go out again. But whatever we get out of this certainly looks like the weakest of the three. The strongest, of course, in terms of wind was last Friday. The more potent in terms of precipitation, especially snowfall, was the one yesterday. And the one that's coming up, if it does come up on Monday, yeah, there may be a little bit of wind and there may be a little bit of moisture associated with it, but certainly it would be the lesser of three evils, so to speak.
Right.
I think.
All right, you know what? We're going to have to put an end to this here because both of us have some work to do. Thanks for joining us tonight. We will keep you updated. We're going to do a Joe and Joe show on Joe and Joe show on Facebook.
If you're in line to that,
so we're going to give a Joe and Joe show try on Facebook in about 15 minutes or so. So you can switch over to my Facebook page, meteorologist Joe Cioffi. His Facebook page is Joe Rayo Weather. So you can go ahead and go there and like his Facebook page as well. So between the two of those pages, you'll get a ton of weather information. And we'll be back here on the YouTube channel tomorrow. Hopefully by then, some of the signal issues will be resolved, totally beyond our control. But thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll see you either later or tomorrow.
Bye.